So welcome to the second episode of Transport Talk, COVID-19. This is a podcast and vodcast where we address specific issues facing our customers and staff in relation to this extraordinary circumstance we find ourselves in society, which is coronavirus. Today we're having a look at the measures we're taking to accommodate the change in the work environment and address the concerns of all levels of staff across the whole of Transport for New South Wales. I am joined by Chief People Officer, People and Culture for Transport for New South Wales, Kirsten Watson, State Transit Bus Driver, John Russell, and Suzanne Edwards, who is the Shift Manager for Central Regional for Trainlink. Thank you so much. Thank you. Kirsten, firstly you, because you are at the forefront of this in terms of hearing the concerns of our people, all 30,000 of them. Let's set the scene for how much work life has changed already in just the last few days, but also the last few weeks.
Thanks, Kate. So with the nature of services that we provide, in some ways things can't change too much, can they? Because we really need to keep our services running, and that's so important. But the way that we're doing it and what's really important right now has shifted for a lot of us. We've been thinking through what are we doing right now that's really critical to the response of COVID-19, and one of those is keeping services running. We've also been thinking about other parts of our workforce, that what do we need to do to think about how we recover from this in the future and for our long-term success. So we've never really had that balance before, but what it does show to us is that everyone's got a really important role to play right here and now in the centre, as well as once we come through this, life won't be the same. And one of the things that I have noticed change a lot is obviously the fear and the focus on people's families first and foremost. And I know we've had progressive border closings and things like that. I felt it most acutely this week when the Queensland border effectively closed, and my family's in Queensland. And so little things like that, I think, bring it home to us in different ways at different times. So there is an element of fear, and there's certainly an element of uncertainty. What do these things mean, and how long is it going to go on? My 8-year-old son was asking me all kinds of questions this week, and some of them I just didn't know the answer to. And I said to him, darling, we just haven't done this before, so I'm not sure. And he looked at me with an element of horror, but also knowing that we're working our way through and we're adjusting and we're keeping the information going. So I think that sense of a child looking to the parent, of teams looking to leaders, just for the reassurance that we don't know the answers, but we're going to work it out, and we're going to work it out in a way that keeps you as safe as we possibly can. And that message is consistent whether we're at home with our families or at work, much more strongly, I think, than it might have been a month ago.
And John, you are a bus driver with State Transit. You are at the front line. You're one of our frontline staff workers.
That's correct.
That is still on the job at the moment.
That's correct.
What are you sensing among work colleagues, but also the public?
Yeah, it's a very unique situation we've found ourselves in at the moment, but I believe, given that we practice the safety protocols that have been put to everybody, I believe we'll get through this. Our drivers do a very hard job every day of the week, but certainly the situation right now is much different. But I'm promoting a positive to all our drivers, and we're all working well together. We're communicating with management every day. Yes, we do see the numbers have dropped off. However, we've got a lot of elderly people there, which we have to maintain transport to be able to get them to supermarkets. You can see the looks on their faces, but we try and give them a smile and keep a positive on them. We've got to maintain a positive.
Well, then you were saying as well, when we were talking before we came on air today, you were talking about there is that level of nervousness among some of the drivers, and you can understand why, but you also recognise that you've got an important job to do in terms of boosting morale out there. That's
correct. I've said to everybody yesterday that as a group we must realise that an enormous number of people now are under a hell of a lot of pressure, mostly financial. We don't know everyone's circumstances. Somebody may have just left a Centrelink office and they may be a little bit emotional, and we need to be very aware of that and welcome them on board with a smile. Even if we can't be close to them, at least welcome them on with a smile, because we've got it. We're out there. We're right there. They're the ones they're relying on us to get them to where they've got to go. Be it Centrelink, be it the supermarket, whatever. We're out there for them.
And Suzanne, you've got another take again, because not only you are at the front line working for Trainlink, but you're out there every day on the platforms, but you've also got a lot of staff that you're managing. How are they feeling about the current circumstances?
There are mixed emotions. They're happy to be there because they realise, being regional, there are so many people that rely on the regional services to get from smaller towns to major towns for weekly, monthly medical treatments. But then they're also concerned because they are based in Central, so they're more exposed to people, more of a higher volume of people, and then they're worried about going out to regional areas and that sort of thing. But what they're also doing is just maintaining that and being very visual on their cleaning and following the steps to wash their hands, have the hand sanitizer, cleaning touch points as they go. So they've got a really good awareness of the type of people that need our services. As John just said, yeah, we're a service and they need us. So, but they're also looking out for each other as well. So we're the go-between. They've got questions that they get from our customers on board, so they'll come back to us and we can do the research and give them the information they need just to reassure the public that we're here for them.
And they would obviously have a lot of questions for management, as would colleagues that you work with as well. Kirsten, on that point, what are you seeing as the biggest concerns in the last couple of weeks? You've been taking part in webinars with Rod Staples, the Secretary. You're getting feedback from the front line yourself. What are the biggest concerns around the network?
A big topic that I hear across the organisation is about work from home. And clearly that's very different when we're talking about frontline service delivery. And I'm really acutely aware of the idea of coming to work every day, of catching public transport, and also thinking about risk exposure for yourselves and your family. And one of the things that we've done by encouraging office workers to work from home, which has caused me just a huge volume of questions of a different nature, it's made so much more space on the network. I'm coming to work every day on public transport. Yesterday I caught 3 forms of public transport just in the morning, and the space is great for someone who needs to be on public transport, either to commute or because you're providing the service. It feels so much more manageable in the current environment, I would say. Is that your experiences as well?
Yeah, definitely. We've had an extra car, as you'd be aware, we've got an extra car put on our XPT services north and south, and that just gives the crew reassurance that there's plenty of room for people. You don't need to worry about having too many people close together. So it's nice for them to have that reassurance that there's plenty of space.
And are you seeing people just do it of their own accord, customers? They just get on and they naturally will just distance themselves now?
People have adapted to it on our buses very quickly. Because we've got the Opal reader directly in front of the driver, that's been decommissioned temporarily. And the front left-hand seat has been taped off. Plus there's also signage on both left and right-hand side, windows inside, asking passengers to please remain behind the signage. People are doing that. They're just stepping straight on. Once upon a time it was automatically to the first Opal reader. Now they've adapted very quickly. And they're all spacing themselves out in the bus too, which is good. So, yeah.
And back to your point, Kirsten, about the amount of cleanliness across our network, of course, our management has been very, very strong on that one. We have upped our protocols in terms of cleaning just so much. We've gone to extraordinary lengths to make sure that our network is clean, buses, trains, Trainlink. Do you feel that the customers are feeling more confident getting on the public transport system, and do you feel comfortable being there?
Well, our buses are absolutely spotless. In fact, Transport's engaged additional cleaners, and they're working night shifts. Every single bus in our particular depot, and I know all the others, they're going through, and the driver's compartment is absolutely crystal clean. It's perfect, and yeah, it's really helping a lot.
And same for regional trains. We're getting there. There's so many nooks and crannies on those trains that we've got to clean, and we're relying on our staff to sort of identify those, because you may have new cleaners brought in who aren't as familiar with the bits and pieces of the buffet, for example, that they are. And I said, let us know, feed that back to us what you need so we can make sure it's looked after for you.
Kate, the other thing we're doing in People and Culture is training new cleaners. So making sure that we've got a constant supply of cleaners who are trained on our network and able to support that really critical activity right now.
That's fantastic. I didn't actually know that. But in terms of the cleaning practices, is there a difference in what was being practiced and what is? I know we're doing it with different types of products, etc. But is there a different method to it now?
I think frequency is key, and the real touch, the focus on the high touch areas.
Okay. Now let's move on to working from home, because that's a huge amount of stuff. Obviously, you guys, Frontline, we've got a huge amount as well that will be watching from home or listening from home on devices. What have been the biggest issues you've had to overcome in terms of accommodating working from home?
So I think in the first instance, it's people understanding that this isn't black and white. There's a lot of choice involved in this. And it really comes down to what is the nature of the task that I'm doing. For some people, it's not a choice. But for some elements of many people's job, it is. And there might be a system that has to be done within an office, for example, that just hasn't been enabled remotely. The question is, are people on that system all day? Can an element of their work be taken home and some other support put in place that way? Or can people rotate so that they're not in the office every day? Questions about caring is definitely one of these as well, and particularly with the changes happening in the school environment this week. And again, it's impossible to be black and white about this. It will depend on the age of the child, the nature of the schooling, the home environment. So what we are saying, and it's very consistent with what we've been saying all along for flexible working, is leaders need to have conversations with their people to understand their context. And understanding the context of the individual, the context of the work and what needs to be done, and the context of the scenario that we're working through, come up with solutions that fit that.
And look, I fit into that category because I've got 3 kids, 2 of school age. And it is, as you say, you just got to stagger your work day and be kind to yourself as well. I think when you work from home and you've got children around, like if you need to get up earlier and do some emails and then you have to attend to them and then get them set up for the day and then get back into your work, it's about finding a balance and also, be kind to yourself and don't put all that pressure on yourself to get it done all at once. On the working from home issue though, just while we're on it so we don't jump around too much, but mental health issues that come with social isolation. So what are we suggesting in terms? I know it's just so important, I would think, at this particular time to check in on each other, to organise frequent conference calls or video conference calls with your teams, or just pick up the phone and check in on your workmates, just to have that sense of camaraderie and connectedness still.
There's a word called huddle that's starting to become more frequently used, and what I would like is every team to have a huddle at least once a week. And what a huddle is a video call with your teammates where the entire purpose of the call is just to check in with each other. Sometimes it won't be practical for teams to get together. And so what each person can do is commit to call maybe 2 team members a day, just for the sheer purpose of saying, how are you going? And have a bit of a chat. And what I would encourage everyone to do is think broadly about the people that you're calling, not just the people that you would normally call, but make sure that between us we're picking up everyone. We're picking up the person who's maybe just moved to another team and might not be as connected with that team yet. Maybe someone who we know is going through a hard time, but also call the people who you think have got it all together, because sometimes they don't.
On that, let's talk frontline staff for a second, because it is just as important that you guys are checking in on each other. There is anxiety everywhere at the moment. John, what's your view on checking with your colleagues? I know you were talking before about boosting morale with them.
Yeah, look, I talk to every driver every day at our depot, and I'm going to continue to be a positive all the way. We've got to. This is a really testing time. And so, it's not just the people out there, it's also our own people. So I'm very focused on them, and of course, if I ever think that there's any issues with anyone, I'll discreetly manage that to make sure they're okay. That's the objective. We've got to look after ourselves because we're the front line, we're the important ones, and through this tough time, we've got to be there for the people. So we can't let ourselves down, we've got to look after each other, to go out there as a cohesive team to be there.
And you did share a nice little anecdote about the last few months, because you were an RFS volunteer, and you were saying before you fought the bushfires, then we had the floods, and then you just thought, what's next? And this came along, coronavirus, but you've maintained perspective through all of this.
I've had 40 years in the Rural Fire Service, and I've had 18 years as a brigade captain, and I was there on the 19th of December at Buxton on a day that I'll never forget. It's the day I never thought I was coming home. When I got back after that, I had 6 weeks away with the fires from work, and I must say my employer was absolutely brilliant. I cannot thank them enough. That allowed me to do what I did for the public. But from those fires, then we hit the storms, and that was another eye-opener, and floods. But we dealt with that, as we do. But the fires sort of really opened my eyes a lot more. And I feel for my crew all the time, because they're number one to me. Without them, you're nothing. But I'm determined throughout this testing time that I'm going to hold a big positive, and I'm going to talk the guys and girls up at our depot to make sure that we're all okay to do our job. But I've also emphasised strongly yesterday that we've really got to make sure that we present that big smile for our passengers, because we're going to have some passengers come on our vehicles that are very emotionally tested, and we don't want to trigger anyone off the wrong way. So we want to be there, greet them with a smile and say thank you, have a good day.
We're all in this together.
I know that's a hard thing to say, have a good day, given the circumstances so many people are going to be in, but we've got to do it.
What about you, from your perspective, Suzanne, and especially the staff you're working with?
Yes, I guess as shift managers, there's 6 of us in total. On a morning, there's anything from 2 to 3 of us out on the platforms from 6 a.m. for the first departures, and it's about being present and being seen to be supportive. We do what we can for our crew, and it's hard because you see them for half an hour or so, and then you wave them off on a trip and you'll see them 24, 48 hours later. So it's about making sure that you're touching base with them. They may not be your direct report, however, they're all our team. Just because they don't have my name as their shift manager doesn't mean I can't support them. So it's about listening to them, just as you said, checking in with them, just saying how you're going with things. So it's about, as much as I can't be on the train with them, I'm only at the other end of the phone, and sometimes it's good to have a chat. One of my team members this morning, she said, my kids are driving me nuts, and it was just a normal conversation. It was so nice she said, it's so nice to just talk about anything but. Then we started talking about the bold and the beautiful. So things like that, just a nice distraction sometimes is what they need to sort of keep them positive, but just being seen and being out there with them is going a long way for them. So.
And I guess I just want you guys to understand from our perspective, and Kirsten would as well, how vital a role it is that you are playing in this time, this unprecedented time, where we've never faced something like this in humanity in our generation. Certainly, it's the role you are playing, frontline staff. You are helping those frontline workers, those doctors and nurses and emergency workers get to work every day. This is crucial stuff.
And I think it's a nice reminder for them that they are needed. They are essential services, as we keep saying. It's like they are essential. They are essential to keep communities running and people going.
We'll get there.
We will.
Get there. We will.
Yes.
And on the back on our staff that are working from home, they are playing just as vital role in supporting
the front line. So my sense of pride, I mean, I've always been proud to work for transport, but I've got to say the bravery that I see, the resilience to keep going, and it has been a tough couple of months, the pragmatism that people get on with things, I just feel so proud of our people. And I know that everyone wants to play their part. And so the people who can work from home, taking the pressure off the system, even though they're stepping into untold challenges at home with school-aged children and all of those kinds of things, being prepared to do that and keep their focus on what they need to do to support their frontline staff. And if that isn't their focus, then what we're asking all of our people to think about is, what is society going to be needing from us in 6 and 12 months' time, and how do we get ready so that we're as good at that as we can be? And it might not be the thing that we thought was a priority a month ago. And so for us to really think about, this is changing the fabric of society and what they need from us, how are we going to be ready to not only respond to the immediate situation, but be there for the long haul as well?
I think it's a good note to end on. Suzanne Edwards, now you're going to have to remind me of the title because I've got it written down, but New South Wales Trainlink Shift Manager for Central Regional.
Yes,
it's a
correct.
long one.
It is.
John Russell, bus driver with State Transit, thank you for your frontline expertise. And Kirsten Watson, Chief People Officer, People and Culture, Transport for New South Wales. This has been Transport Talk COVID-19.